It is will. Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now.
But he isn't, ladies and gentlemen, so here we go. All right, everyone, welcome back to a Knoxx We Trust. Thank you for joining me today. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to take a glance over at a few of the little noteworthy moments, what I consider little noteworthy moments that took place during the State of the Union address. And like the press indent just said, if he was smart, he'd go home, but he isn't. So let's begin. Also, if you want to watch the entire State of the Union, I will be providing a link in the description. So there will be that. Now, let's do it to it.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans, in January 1941, Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation, and he said, "I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now, it's we who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union."
Unprecedented in the State of the Union. Now it's we facing an unprecedented in the history of the Union as I address the public. You know what else President Roosevelt was doing? Delivering his speech appropriately without slurring through it. Just saying.
And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either. Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
With all of the problems that are currently plaguing the country at this very moment, the President of the United States' first order of business at the State of the Union address, mind you, it's called the State of the Union for a reason, right? Is to address a foreign conflict, the war in Ukraine. A conflict which, in my opinion, isn't any of our concern. It certainly isn't an immediate concern. It doesn't impact us in the slightest. I'm sorry. Well, correction. Aside from stealing financial resources from us, the American people, aside from that, as we've already spent over $160 billion, okay? $160 billion, which would absolutely solve many of the United States of America's problems right now. For instance, homelessness, medical coverage for all, a secure border, just to name a few. That's just to name a few. $160 billion could solve all of that. And yet, when it comes to our needs, to our country, the funds elude us. They're never available. When these things are proposed, they can't find the money. But $160 billion to fund the foreign proxy war, they can find it for that. Somehow, magically, these funds always appear. So that then they can be funneled, like I said, into the proxy war in Ukraine. That's his first order of business, guys. Just like his first order of business upon his inauguration was to allow the invasion of our country. Don't forget that, and don't forget this.
But Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons that needs to defend itself.
No, Ukraine cannot. And Joe knows this. They all know it. How much more aid are they going to require to achieve this victory? Huh? He is lying. That is a flat out lie. He lies to the American people. This is the man who is asking for your vote, a liar who does it easily and effortlessly. As his trained SEALs sit there and clap at his every whim upon command. That's what they do.
America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace.
To prevent war and keep the peace. But you know who isn't a member of NATO? Ukraine. And now NATO appears to felicitate in starting war. So there's that. And you know who told Russia they could invade Ukraine? You did, Mr. President. You did, Twisted Joe. Not Trump. You.
Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th, when insurrectionists stormed this very Capitol and placed a dagger to the throat of American democracy. Many of you were here on that darkest of days. We all saw with our own eyes the insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people.
Overturn? Overturn the will of the people? This man can hardly speak. This is really tough to watch. It is tough to get through. I'm not even going to lie. I'm doing it for you. But again, I'll provide it in the description below, so if you want to watch it, you can. In my opinion, this is what true evil looks like. Even in his demented state of mind, his truly evil nature allows him to stand there and deliver these lies flat out. Flat out. And what makes them even worse is that he expects for you and me not to believe our own eyes and ears. Don't believe your lying eyes or your lying ears, but absolutely believe my lying lips. That's his message. As I stumble through reading what they wrote for me to say, because you know they did. That's what this message is here for. That is the message being delivered by Twisted Joe Biden. Okay? That's the one.
Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act, Kate and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose, criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need.
And had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her own life was going to show her future. This man is a done deal. He can barely string a sentence together. But now what did he do? What did they write for him to do right there? Open up the abortion playbook and execute strategy number 1. Terminating a pregnancy due to medical necessity. Then follow it up with some rape. Okay? Which they all know that the majority of the people aren't opposed to doing what is necessary in those nuanced instances. They're certainly willing to debate it and talk about it. It's treating abortion as though it is a pregnancy prevention tool that people are opposed to. Abortion isn't a condom or a diaphragm. Okay? And make no mistake though, it is birth control. Okay? Because it's the kind of birth control that control and assure that women, and particularly to use their buzz phrase, women of color, families of color, aren't producing offspring. It makes sure that that happens. Aren't creating families. It certainly makes sure it controls it in that aspect. Yes. It's deceptive, it's disgusting, and it's downright evil. Okay? And I only use that term because it's, like I said, one of their buzz phrases. Because I don't believe in using any of those terms. I don't believe in that nonsense. And to me, it is straight up nonsense. Okay? We are all people. I've said this. I'll say it once. I'll say it again. So just wanted to point that out there. Okay? Complexion has no bearing, no significance whatsoever unless you got problems with the shining sun. That's it. That's about it. That's where complexion matters. Get your vitamin D, people. And don't be thinking all, anyway, you know.
My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look, it's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following. And with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you're right about that.
My God, what freedom else would you take away from us? Seriously? Yeah, but in this, you know what it is? This was his Jedi training. That's what it is. That's what this is. See? Fundamental reading is, confident in your speech you are not. He was trained by Yoda. That's why he speaks backwards and in riddles. Did he really just issue threats to the Supreme Court justices? Right? You see the SEALs, they're all standing, they're clapping. You already know, right? However, the justices, they remain seated. Democracy, huh? You know, I mean, I don't really know if he was issuing a threat because I could hardly understand what his slurred speech even said there, but it was something like, you're going to see, you're going to make you pay for this, whippersnapper.
I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history. We have. It doesn't make news in 1,000 cities and towns. The American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told.
As I stated earlier, he can just flat out lie. Or perhaps the greatest comeback story never told entails the invasion of the United States, facilitated by him and his, compliant lapdogs. From both sides of the aisle, mind you, okay? So, there's that. Shit. Two of them are sitting right behind them. You got cackling Kamala and sellout Johnson. They're right there, right behind them. The worst economy ever. 15% inflation rates, right? Sky-high crime, which include murder, rape, pedophilia, and the like, Racial divisiveness through DEI initiatives, nonsense like that. Pervasive woke ideals inserted into nearly every aspect of our everyday lives. An attack on our children's education. Should I continue? I can. I can see why this great story was, in his own words, never told. This guy's an incompetent, no, he's just evil, flat out.
America's comeback is building the future of American possibilities, building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down, investing in all America, in all Americans, to make sure everyone has a fair shot, and we leave no one behind. The pandemic no longer controls our lives. The vaccines that saved us from COVID are now being used to beat cancer.
America's comeback from your 4 disastrous years, perhaps? Right? From the middle out, you destroyed the middle class. And then he's talking about investing in America, in all Americans, by doing what? Building get-high stations and legalizing lawlessness? That's how you did it. Leaving no man behind, like you did in Afghanistan? That kind of no leaving people behind? And then you're referring to what? A medical procedure that was forced upon the entire nation through nefarious measures? Huh? The same one which has now been linked to myocarditis and numerous other health issues? Curing cancer? What? You sure you didn't mean causing cancer, my friend? Pretty certain that that's what you meant. You really must think that we're stupid. That's what he must believe. But no, it's far worse than that. He's just flat out evil. Okay? You want us sick and you want us dead. And you want us subservient. That is all I can think. That's what I believe. And I'm going to leave it right there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for joining me today. All right? If you have not done so, please like, subscribe, share the videos. This is crucial in order for the channel to grow. Also, hit that notification bell so that you're alerted to when new content becomes available. You can also follow me on TikTok, Rumble, and Instagram if those are the platforms that tickle your fancy. All right? Thank you, everybody. Love and appreciate you. Pretty good, pretty neat. Later.